Hey there, hope you're having a good day. Today I'm going to give you an introduction to a video series that I am starting, which will go through in detail the JRPG Combat System. The JRPG Combat System is a full suite of functionality designed to mimic those classic JRPG combat systems. I know growing up, I enjoyed playing games like Final Fantasy, back when they were on the Super Nintendo, and those types of combat systems really shaped how I experienced games growing up and my love of games as an adult now. And I felt like I wanted to make a system that mimicked that. Now, the system is designed so that you can customize it. It is built 100% in Blueprint, so you don't necessarily need to know how to code. But you should know how the system is put together and how it operates before you go making changes to it. Obviously, you can easily break things because it is very accessible for you to make changes. So it is important that you know how things work before you go make changes to it. But it is designed to be very compatible and easily changed to fit your game, however you choose to use it. What I've got pulled up here is the demo project. There's another video on my channel where I show a JRPGCS demo, and that is what this file is. And so today I'm going to show you give you kind of a brief overview of the 6 main parts of the JRPG combat system. To start, however, I'm just going to just run the demo again and talk a little bit about it. So this is just a click to move, basically the top-down template. Keep in mind the assets here are not part of the system. You need to bring your own assets to the system. So the visuals you're seeing here are not included with the JRPG combat system. It's specifically the system is what it is. And as you can see here, very classic JRPG experience. I have my characters here on the right, enemies here on the left, and I can choose to attack, and then I can choose to use that ability, and they'll perform their attacks. All of these skills are built using one of those 6 main features. Let me get out of this. You can watch the demo if you want. So let me just start talking about the 6 main parts of it. So the first one is a function library. Now the function library that I have pulled up here, most of this is here for convenience. For instance, another part of it is a blueprint interface that you need to implement on your actors. This function library has certain functions that just make implementing that interface easier. If you know what I mean by implement interface, you know that it's not that difficult to implement an interface. It's relatively easy. But I created this blueprint function library to have some helper functions that make it even easier, so you can do it even quicker than before. There are also some other functions in here. One of them is this diagnostics function, which throughout the system, I've implemented this function as a way to I'll give you a way to quickly troubleshoot things. If you do make changes and things aren't working the way you expect, you can come here to diagnostics, and under local variables, you can enable diagnostics. And what this will do is it'll print to the screen as the JRPG combat system functions. It'll print out what it's doing to the screen, so you can see at what point it's breaking down. You can limit to different categories such as general, turn, skill, effect, actor. I'll talk more about exactly how this functions in the video where I go over the function library, but for the most part, this is here for your convenience, comes as part of the system. Okay. The next thing that comes with the JRPG combat system is probably the most important part of it, and it's this guy right here. It is the driver. Okay, so you see these lines that kind of show up. You can see party relative end and start, where the troop ends and start. This whole actor here is what I refer to as the driver, because it pushes combat forward. It is the heartbeat of combat, and it is essential to the JRPG combat system. It is meant to be easy to use. So say, for instance, I wanted to reposition this. If I grab it and I want to rotate it, you can see I can rotate it around to be in whatever orientation I want. You'll notice it grabs the different actors and it will just pull them along with it, because what it's doing is it's detecting any actors in the vicinity that respond to that interface that I mentioned earlier. And if they respond to it, presumably they're combat actors that you want included, right? And so you'll notice you can see the camera here when you have the actor selected, and this is so that you can better tell, based on where you've positioned it, what the battle scene looks like and whether your actors are indeed visible in the scene. I think that's all I really want to go into it for the introduction, but I'll have a video going into detail on how that functions. The next thing, also very important, is the blueprint interface. Okay, BPI JRPGCS Combat. So this is the combat interface that you need to implement on your actors. Now, all this is a collection of functions. Okay, a lot of these functions will have some helper functions in the function library that will make implementing them easier. But you have things like entering a combat level, joining combat, telling the actors, hey, come join in this combat event, fixing position, leaving combat. Each of these are essential for it to function. If you don't implement the interface on an actor that you want to participate in combat, or if you only partially implement the interface, some things are not going to work as intended. So obviously you need to just go through and for each function determine how your actor is going to respond or react to that. I do provide in the example folder an example combat actor. Okay? And so you can use this to decide how you want to implement the interface on your actors. You could also technically just reparent your actors to inherit from this one. You need to decide if that's how you want to go about it. If you did that, obviously everything's already implemented. You would just need to use it according to this implementation. So you would have a little less customization unless you wanted to go in and tweak this. Again, it's all in blueprints, so you can play with it, make changes, decide how you want to go about it, but that is the blueprint interface in a nutshell. The next thing I want to talk about is the effects system. Okay, so you'll see a few effects here: effect burning, effect poison, an effect being like a damage over time or something that clings to an actor during combat. The effect system in the JRPG combat system is very flexible. It is designed so that you can essentially create effects on the fly. You can do, as I've done here in this example, and create things like burning and poison if you foresee that as something that you are going to use frequently throughout development. You're going to want to use poison effects and many different things to trigger it. It also supports creating on-the-fly effects. So let's say you have a skill that you want to create an effect for that skill. You don't need to go in here and do it in here. Let me pull up the example skills database. if I were to scroll down to make this a little easier to see, if I scroll down to the action section of this skill, you can see I can tick here to give effect, indicating that I want this skill to apply an effect to its target. And then I can either choose to apply an effect from a class, so I can choose my existing effect here, or I can expand this right here. See, it's one or the other, either one of these. So if you fill in both, I think it's going to default to the class if I'm not mistaken. But let's say I have none selected as the class. If I go in here, I can create a class on the fly that's just for this skill. Okay, so it has a lot of flexibility and allows you to quickly iterate on how your effects, implementing your different effects that you want to, allowing you to try different things without needing to create a bunch of different classes or blueprints. So that's the effect system. The HUD is pretty self-explanatory. I'll go over that in more detail in another video, but that's one of the main parts of it. As you noticed while I was playing a moment ago, the HUD is designed to look very much like the classic JRPG experience. I do want to point out one other thing on the HUD. So I'm going to tell it to initiate combat here. And you'll notice I moved it earlier, so it's in a different position now. But you'll see here in the upper right, we have turn indicators. This is driven by the speed of the actor, and it comes back to the UI here to tell the UI, next turn, how much is this going to fill? And you see the blinking indicator showing you how fast that character is. Okay, because speed has an influence on who acts when. Theoretically, someone who is very fast can go multiple times before someone who is very slow. Okay, I think that's all I want to say about the UI for now. Again, I'll have another video going into greater detail there. The last thing, so far we've talked about the function library, we've talked about the driver, we've talked about the blueprint interface, the effect system, I just mentioned the HUD. Now the sixth and final thing I want to talk about is the skill framework. The more time I spent on developing this part of it, the more I started to feel like this should have been its own thing. I'm pretty proud of it. The skill framework is very flexible in that once you learn how to use it, you'll find that you can iterate on skills very quickly, and you can make a wide variety of skills using the system without needing to go into developing a system. This will create a large variety of skills. There are a few examples here, part of the example project, and these are relatively simple compared with the potential here. And one way to illustrate that is the skill system starts with this summary up here, which is mostly flavor. It's mostly how do you want this skill to look to the person using it. And then you have here skill data. You can have any number of skill data on a single skill. And skill data represents movement, action, damage, in any order, any number of times. So you can create a very complex skill that has many different steps, that does many different things, or you can just create very simple skills. Like I said, many of the ones included here are very simple. They're like one-step skills. Like this one, attack, deal damage 50% of attack. All it has is a movement, which also includes an action, and it deals 50%, so 0.5 of attack, And you can see you can scale this with different things. If you wanted to be based on the max HP of the user, you could do that here. You tell it what montage you want it to use. You tell it what you want it to look like while it's moving, if moving is part of that skill data, how fast you want it to move, whether you want them to jump or, in other words, arc to the location or go straight there. There's a lot of things you can do to tweak it to look more visually closer to how you want it to look. You can adjust things like the relative offset when they arrive, keeping in mind things like targets front, right, left, back. Those things are all just included, so you don't have to deal with that. You can just say, I want you to go to the target's front side, or I want you to go to the center of the battlefield before doing the next skill data, right? You can just tell it that, and then you can also offset it further if you want them to maybe be back a little further than that. You want them to be a little closer than that. So you can tweak and adjust and iterate on these skills until it's precisely what you want, okay? There is another side to this. So this skill framework is meant to basically tick all the boxes you need to have a functional combat system that you can develop. You can also create your own custom skills with your own custom blueprint code. And that there is a handoff point. If I pull up the example combat actor, let me see. I think it's in the event graph. Sorry, bear with me for a second. Here it is. Event use custom skill. There it is. And you see it was right in front of me, just blind or something. So there is this interface, an event that you implement as part of the interface. Okay, and so this is just to kind of show you that although the skill framework is very customizable and for the most part is going to do everything you need it to do, this is also here so that you can implement your own custom code if you want to, that your character will use during the course of combat. And in this example, I haven't created a custom skill, but I've just provided how you might set it up, how you might route your different nodes, and how you can access the core data so that you can, the skill data being used, so that you can switch on that data to do the action that you want. Okay, so all of that's there, meant to be very customizable. And so that's what I wanted to cover in this video. I went over very briefly each of these, which I'll go into more detail in a future video. The function library, the driver, the blueprint interface, the effect system, the HUD, and the skill framework. So let me know what you think in the comments and whether you have any questions about this. Again, I'll be creating some more videos about this to give more detail. If you do have a question about a specific thing, I only ask that you go to that video to ask the question, partly so that I can better understand what your question is related to, but also so that if other people are having questions and they have a similar question, they can see that you asked that question and that might help them along too. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day.